Hello guys, this is Gwendy85 and I'm going to do my own trailer breakdown of the final trailer for the Rise of Skywalker. I know others have done this already, but there are a few things I've spotted here and there that could be of interest. So I may go and compare this with the other trailers we got so far. Also, I will most likely skim over some of the other scenes and concentrate more on the scenes that have piqued my interest. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the shot opens up with Rey running around in the jungle planet with a training droid flying after her. Notice the helmet on the ground. It reminds me of the blast shield helmet Luke used to train with the training droid in A New Hope. She has her lightsaber with her at this point and is parrying the bolts from the training droid. The next part, we see that she does not have her lightsaber with her, and already there are a few interesting things about this shot. For one thing, we see a red ribbon in her hand, the very same one that we saw a close-up of in the D23 trailer. What that ribbon signifies, I have no idea, though the girls with Sabers Podcast theorize that it has something to do with the wishing tree in Batuu at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So could this jungle planet be some region of Batuu? I wouldn't be surprised if it is. If they're going to make Star Wars Galaxy's Edge really important to the sequel trilogy, it wouldn't be a stretch to actually have the planet in the next film. Rey is still running here, and we still see her with that red ribbon in her hand, but no lightsaber or the stick as we saw in the D23 trailer. Now to the next interesting part of the trailer, and I have to give props to Reylo Latino on Twitter for first directing me to this. We see Rey running towards east, but if you slow the clip down, you'll notice that something's off. The armband, which is supposed to be on her right arm, is gone, but now it's on the left, which means only one thing. They did some editing trickery on this, more likely as part of the transition to the next scene. The trick is that the scene is actually flipped. This is the corrected clip with the armband and the ribbon in the right place, and Rey is actually heading west, not east. It reminds me of the scene in The Force Awakens.
Sir, the droid was spotted heading west with a girl.
Rey then jumps over a chasm, and I have to give a shout out to Ausaya on Twitter for pointing out that this is reminiscent to The Force Awakens, where there's a chasm between Rey and Kylo, only this time Rey is jumping towards Kylo's side. I edited a clip here, although I have to give props to Angry Dragon Puppy on Twitter for first creating a GIF of it. I don't know if there's symbolism here, but I thought it was a cool callback, and yeah, it could be symbolic to the story too. Then we see the transition to Rey jumping in what looks to be the inside of the second Death Star. Some people say that this actually has to do with the Force, that Rey is actually jumping through the chasm and suddenly finds herself in the Death Star, but I don't think that's what's happening here. Slowing the clip down again, we see that Rey appears to have been clinging to this sort of pillar before making her jump, so the two scenes are not connected at all. I'm thinking she may have gone inside the bowels of the Death Star and climbed up this pillar. Maybe she's trying to reach the Emperor's throne room. Who knows at this point? Next we see Finn using binoculars in what looks to be the desert planet of Pasaana. Not sure what he's looking at. I've tried looking at the reflection of the binoculars, but to no avail. Maybe he's seeing Kylo's TIE fighter, who knows? Next we see Rey back in the jungle planet, this time with her lightsaber in her right hand, and she's heading east. Here we see a gathering of resistance fighters with Lando Calrissian smack dab in the middle of it. We see this shot of Commander Rose Tico with Connex and Dominic Monaghan's character behind her. Then there's a shot of Finn, Poe, and Chewie with an X-Wing. A shot of the blockade runner brushing against some trees. And this is the best part. Let's play it.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
If this scene is somewhat familiar, that's because it seems to be taken straight out of Pride and Prejudice. We have Space Elizabeth in Rey and Darth Darcy in Kylo Ren. It is interesting to note that while Lucasfilm was waiting for Adam Driver to say yes, other actors auditioned for the role of Kylo Ren. Eddie Redmayne was one of those that auditioned, and he said he was asked to do a scene from Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, the sequel trilogy is Pride and Prejudice in space. Back to the clip, we see Rey standing atop what appears to be the Death Star ruins. Behind her is a cannon. We then see a very wet Kylo Ren coming towards her, appearing to be ready to fight. But here's the thing. In the previous D23 teaser, when they were also getting ready to fight, there's no cannon behind Rey, and Kylo doesn't appear very wet. His hair is still moving about, and his cape is also flying about, so I'm not sure which of these scenes will make it into the final movie. That is, if we get a damp Kylo or a wet Kylo. Anthony Daniels did mention that Adam and Daisy filmed this scene for 6 days, so one of these scenes may not be in the final movie at all. Next we see TIE fighters heading towards what looks to be a glacier planet. My best guess is that this is Kijimi. So we hear Palpatine's voiceover and we see his new scary throne. As others have pointed out, this seems to have been taken from previously unused concept art by Ralph McQuarrie. Another thing others have pointed out was what appears to be the Sith symbol on the throne. Speaking of Ralph McQuarrie, he also did this concept art with what looks like monoliths around the Emperor's throne. It kind of reminded me of the walls around Dark Rey in the D23 trailer, and to me it's getting more likely that Dark Rey is a vision Palpatine is using either to manipulate Rey or even Ben. Anyway, back to the trailer. We have a Star Destroyer that appears to be rising from ice, or at least I think that's ice. Then we see this awesome shot of Resistance ships. I won't even begin to pretend that I know jack about these ships because I don't. But I will point out that I think it's Lando and Chewie on the Falcon. Tiny I know, but it's my best guess. We have the Resistance gang in the Falcon. Then we have Rey and Kylo fighting again, and this time Kylo's really wet, that even his cape is clinging to his body. So it's getting more likely now that the shot from the D23 trailer may not make it into the movie after all. Then we see Rey alone in some sort of skiff, heading towards the Death Star ruins. Maybe to go to her emo space boyfriend. The next shot we have Babu Frick doing something to 3PO's head while Rey looks on worriedly. Then of course this emotional scene.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir. At my friends.
Back to the scene, I definitely think that's a battle droid behind 3PO. We then see Finn, Poe, and Chewie blasting away at stormtroopers in what looks to be a First Order ship. Then this scene that we've seen before of Leia and Rey hugging. I can't wait for the context of this scene. It must be very emotional. We then see the Resistance gang being chased in Pasana. A shot of Lando and Chewie in the Falcon. A Y-Wing doing a barrel roll. Finn, Janna, and others riding on Orbaks while BB-8 runs alongside them. Like, how fast can BB-8 even go? He's really keeping up. Next is a shot of Rey and Kylo in the Emperor's throne room, and they're talking. Rey has her lightsaber on, Kylo doesn't. And if you look closely, you can see him talking and nodding his head. Others have pointed out that this may be the "but I do" scene, but it's really hard to tell at this point. Another interesting thing that others have pointed out was that they are in the very throne room where Kylo's grandfather Anakin got his redemption. Could this be a clue to Kylo's own redemption as well, with him standing in the light like this? We shall see. Finn here is running and shouting for Rey with Janna behind him. I don't necessarily think that they are on the Death Star ruins at this point. I think those are Death Star debris closer to shore, and Finn is actually yelling for Rey because Rey has decided to hop onto that skiff and go to the Death Star ruins alone to meet Kylo. If that's the case, the yet unreleased footage of Rey telling Finn it's too dangerous, I have to go alone, makes much more sense. The next scene is the first time we've seen Kylo with his cracked mask. There's some debate online as to whether they accidentally destroyed what appears to be Vader's helmet while fighting, or if they purposefully destroyed it together. After this happens, we see Kylo appearing to take off his mask. We also see a dagger in Rey's hand, the importance of which we don't know yet. There also appears to be Chewie's bandolier in the middle of the scene, and on the floor to one side, what appears to be beads strewn about. Could it have been the necklace Rey wore in Pasaana? Maybe, maybe not. Next, we see Finn, Poe, and 3PO in what looks to be a cave. I believe Rey is with them because that's definitely a blue lightsaber's reflection in their eyes. And for another thing, there was a leaked behind-the-scenes reel from Star Wars Celebration with the shot of the Resistance gang in the cave. There's also a possibility that Kylo is in front of them, since we see a reflection of what looks like a red lightsaber on 3PO's face. Next scene, we see the Resistance on Orbax again, and they look like they're on the hull of a Star Destroyer and heading for battle. Next is Kylo with either electricity or lightning all around him, which seems to match the electricity or lightning in the next two scenes, so I'm guessing he's also with Rey at this point. Here, a hooded figure seems to be approaching Rey in a mechanical chair of some sort, while Rey takes a single step backwards. Is the Emperor in some sort of machine keeping him alive, perhaps? The final shot is of Rey looking into the camera, a slight smile on her lips as she nods softly. I don't know about you guys, but I interpret this either as hope or finality. Hope, that is, she is seeing something hopeful, maybe Bendemption, or finality, in that she has decided to sacrifice herself for the greater good, and is perhaps conveying her goodbye to Ben. Obviously, I prefer the former, but we'll see how the movie turns out. And that, my dears, is my breakdown of the trailer. I hope you found this interesting, and I really cannot wait for the movie. I know JJ will blow our socks off. Until then, may the Force be with you, always.